The tires crunched against the gravel driveway as I pulled up to my ranch, the late afternoon sun dipping low behind the hills and painting the entire valley in shades of golden amber. The trip back from Dallas had been long, quiet, and uneventful, just the way I liked it. I had left my bags in the back of the truck, eager to breathe in the familiar scent of home, fresh grass, worn leather, and the faint perfume of the wildflowers that always grew along the fence line this time of year. I'd been gone for just under 2 weeks, attending a series of meetings and conferences that were supposed to help me expand the ranching business. The plan was to stay another week, wrap up everything neatly, and return home without much fanfare. But a voice in my gut had told me to drive through the night, to just get back early and surprise the ranch hands. Maybe it was homesickness. Maybe it was instinct. Whatever it was, I wished I had trusted that instinct even sooner. The moment I turned the corner and my ranch came into view, my stomach twisted into a hard, painful knot. It took me a second to fully process what I was looking at. There were cars, a dozen at least, parked in neat little rows along the driveway and the edge of the pasture, like someone had set up an open house. Strangers I had never seen before strolled casually across my lawn, sipping bottled water and pointing at things like they were at a neighborhood tour. The couple near the barn leaned against the fence, gesturing toward my horses as if deciding which one they liked best. My jaw tightened as my eyes darted to the massive banner strung across the front fence, HOA Auction, today only. The bold red letters mocked me, flapping slightly in the breeze. What the hell, I muttered, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I slammed the truck into park, killed the engine, and jumped out, boots crunching against the gravel with every furious step I took toward the chaos unraveling on my land. "Excuse me," I shouted, my voice cutting through the low hum of idle conversation. Heads turned. A few people froze, like deer caught in headlights, but most just stared blankly at me, as if I was the intruder. That's when I saw her. Karen Whitmore. Every HOA had one. Ours just happened to be named Karen. She was standing near the porch, clipboard in hand, her crisp white blouse tucked into high-waisted slacks that screamed corporate power trip. Her sunglasses sat perched on her sharp nose, her perfectly styled hair unmoved by the breeze. She looked up slowly when she heard me, like a queen interrupted during her coronation. "Hey," she said, her voice dripping with that familiar, grating sweetness I'd come to hate. "You weren't supposed to be back until next week, Jake. We were told you'd be away." I blinked, stunned. "What the hell is going on here, Karen? This," she said with a flourish of her hand, "is an HOA-sanctioned auction. You've failed to comply with multiple community guidelines for months now. Overgrown pastures, unregistered horses, failure to repaint the barn when notified, and, let's not forget, thousands in unpaid fines." My blood boiled as I stepped closer, towering over her. "Unpaid fines," I barked. "Karen, this is my property. You don't own this ranch. You don't own anything here. And you damn sure don't have the right to auction it off while I'm gone." She adjusted her sunglasses slowly, clearly savoring the moment. "Actually, according to Section 14B of the HOA bylaws, any property that remains in violation for more than 90 days is." "Don't you dare quote bylaws to me," I snapped, my voice sharp enough to make the nearby crowd shuffle uncomfortably. "Bonds and bylaws don't give you the right to steal someone's home." A man holding a clipboard hesitated near the porch, lowering his phone as if unsure whether to keep filming. Karen, unfazed, gave a little shrug. The board voted unanimously to proceed. "The auction started 20 minutes ago, and frankly, you showing up unannounced is causing unnecessary disruption." I took another step toward her, close enough that she finally had to tilt her head to meet my glare. "Unnecessary disruption. You're trespassing, Karen. Every last one of you is trespassing. So I'm going to say this once, everyone leave. Now." There was a ripple of murmurs through the crowd, uncertainty creeping in as they glanced between me and Karen. Some of them were clearly uncomfortable, others looked annoyed that their afternoon of suburban entertainment was being interrupted. Karen, however, didn't flinch. She smiled, that smug, practiced smile I'd seen countless times at HOA meetings when she thought she had the upper hand. Without breaking eye contact, she reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and dialed. I stared at her in disbelief. "Hello, yes, 911. She said, her tone dripping with faux urgency. "There's a man on my property. He's aggressive, he's threatening people, and I fear for my safety. Please send someone immediately." The audacity left me momentarily speechless. "Your property," I barked, throwing my hands up. "Lady, this is my ranch. My family's land. I've got the deed in my truck if you want to see it." "Oh, please," she said, tilting her head as if she was indulging a child's tantrum. "Save it for the officers." The crowd shifted again, whispers breaking out as people began filming the confrontation on their phones. I clenched my fists at my sides, every muscle in my body taut with barely restrained anger. She wanted a scene. She wanted me to lose it so she could paint me as the unhinged rancher who couldn't follow rules. I turned my back on her, stalking toward my truck, needing a second to breathe before I did something I'd regret. Somewhere in the distance, faint at first but growing louder, came the sound I dreaded, the wail of approaching sirens. The sheriff's cruiser kicked up a cloud of dust as it rolled slowly down my driveway, its flashing red and blue lights cutting through the warm evening haze. The wail of the siren faded as the car came to a stop just a few feet away from my truck. For a moment, the only sound was the soft rustle of the tall grass in the breeze and the low, impatient murmur of the crowd that had gathered for Karen's ridiculous auction. Deputy Mason stepped out first, tall and broad-shouldered, his hand resting casually on the grip of his holstered sidearm. The man had the same easy swagger he'd carried in high school, back when we'd been two kids playing football in the same dusty field a few miles down the road. But right now, there was no humor in his eyes, just sharp wariness as he scanned the scene. "Officer!" Karen's shrill voice sliced through the tension like a blade. She was waving her manicured hand high above her head, clipboard clutched tight in the other like it was some sort of legal document. "Over here. Over here. Thank God you're here, Deputy Mason. That man," she jabbed her finger at me with exaggerated panic, "is trespassing on my property. He's been yelling, threatening me, and trying to disrupt a lawful HOA auction. I demand you arrest him immediately before he becomes violent." I almost laughed. The audacity was surreal. "Trespassing? Are you serious right now?" I barked, stepping forward. "This is my ranch, Mason. She's got a bunch of strangers walking all over my land like it's a Sunday open house, and she's calling me the criminal." Karen turned on me, her mouth curled into a sneer. "Your ranch. You've forfeited your rights when you ignored the HOA's repeated notices. $30,000 in unpaid fines, property violations, and dangerous animals." "Dangerous animals?" I cut her off, incredulous. "You mean my horses? The ones you're letting these strangers feed like it's a petting zoo?" The deputy's gaze flicked from her to me and back again, his brow furrowed as if he was trying to piece together a puzzle. Finally, his eyes landed on me. "Jake," he said, his voice calm but firm, "what's really going on here?" "What's going on," I said, jabbing my thumb toward Karen, "is that she's trying to steal my land while I'm out of town. Came home early to find her running an auction on my porch like it's her personal flea market." The crowd murmured louder now, some people lowering their phones, others stepping back as if they didn't want to be caught in the middle. Even a couple of Karen's most loyal followers looked uneasy. Karen scoffed, shaking her head with exaggerated disbelief. "He's lying." The board voted unanimously. "This auction is perfectly legal under HOA bylaws, and if you don't enforce the rules, Deputy, you're just as guilty as he is for allowing a dangerous situation to escalate." Mason turned back to me. "You got proof of ownership?" "Yeah," I said, jerking my thumb toward the truck. "Glove compartment. Deed, tax receipts, every legal document you could possibly need. Paid in full, up to date. She's the trespasser here, not me." I yanked the envelope from the glove box, my hands shaking with anger as I handed it over. Mason took his time flipping through the papers, scanning each page carefully while Karen hovered nearby, her arms crossed tightly, her nails drumming against the clipboard in a nervous rhythm that betrayed the cracks in her confidence. When Mason looked up, his eyes were cool and sharp. "Karen," he said evenly, "this property is clearly registered under Jake's name. Taxes are paid. There's no lien, no foreclosure notice, no court order. Which means this auction," he gestured toward the banner flapping in the breeze, "is completely unauthorized." Karen's face turned crimson. "That's not true," she snapped, her voice cracking slightly. "The HOA has jurisdiction here. He agreed to the bylaws when he purchased the property, and those bylaws give us the right to." "No, they don't," Mason interrupted, his voice steel now. "The HOA doesn't have authority to seize or auction private property without a court mandate. And unless you've got a judge's order hidden in that clipboard, you and everyone else here are trespassing." The crowd went quiet. Even the birds seemed to pause in the nearby trees, the weight of Mason's words hanging heavy in the thick summer air. I took a step forward, locking eyes with Karen. "You hear that? You've got no right to be here. So take your circus and get off my land." Her lips trembled, but she quickly forced a smile, trying to regain her composure. "This isn't over, Jake," she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "You think you've won, but you've just made a very big mistake." I tilted my head, my voice calm but laced with steel. "No, Karen. The only mistake made here today was you thinking you could bully me out of what's mine." Mason took a step closer to her, his hand resting casually near his radio. "I suggest you and your group clear out, Karen. Now, before I have to start writing citations for trespassing and harassment." One by one, the people in the crowd began to scatter. A few avoided my eyes, shame coloring their faces as they shuffled toward their cars. A couple of bold ones lingered just long enough to shoot Karen confused, questioning looks before finally walking away. Karen stayed rooted in place, her nails digging into the clipboard, her breathing sharp and heavy, until Mason Took one deliberate step closer. Move, he said simply. Her heels dug into the gravel as she finally turned, muttering under her breath as she stormed off, the click of her shoes sharp and uneven against the dirt. I stood there in silence for a moment, my chest rising and falling as I tried to steady my breathing. The banner above the gate flapped violently in the breeze, one corner tearing loose and snapping like a flag in retreat. Mason handed me the envelope with the deed, his expression serious. "You need to get cameras up," he said quietly. "Motion sensors, locks, everything. She's not the type to let this go. You embarrassed her, and people like her, they don't forgive that easily." "I figured as much," I muttered, my eyes still locked on Karen's retreating figure as she disappeared behind a row of parked cars. Mason adjusted his hat, glancing around the property before stepping back toward his cruiser. "If she tries anything again, you call me first. Don't confront her alone. You hear me?" I nodded. "Yeah, I hear you." As the last of the cars rolled away and silence finally settled back over the ranch, I stood there alone in the fading light, my boots planted firmly in the dirt that had been mine since the day I was born. The land was quiet again, but my gut told me this wasn't the end. Karen wasn't done, and neither was I.